stand up, Josh Feliciano, and he is a junior at Free State High School, and he told me also a swimmer.
Very good. Very good. Welcome to Federal and State Affairs. Good. Thank you for being here. Committee, well, I do know we have one bill introduction in the audience. We'll go ahead and take care of that and then open it up to any other bill introductions. Sir, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Steve Kearney. I'm appearing here on behalf of the Kansas County and District Attorneys Association. We're requesting introduction of RS 3236 pertaining to felons in possessions of firearms.
Okay. Committee, any questions or objections to introduction to that bill? Seeing none, that is introduced. Any other bill introductions this morning? Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and my apologies for not
Well, that's okay.
telling you. But I have a bill, RS 3341, and it is regarding ownership transparency for nursing homes. It's in response to some information that was shared with the Bob Bethel Committee when they met, I think, Friday, a week ago, and help understand what relationships there are between nursing homes, any LLC that they may also be combined with that owns the property, or a pharmacy. So.
Very good. Committee, any questions or objections to introduction to that bill? Seeing none. Any other bill introductions? Seeing none, we will move on to our hearing today. Senate Bill 356, and this is providing a federal firearm licensee immunity from civil liability. And I'll have Jason, our reviser, give us a quick overview of the bill. Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Senate Bill 356 would enact new law regarding immunity provisions for federal firearm licensees. This would apply, you can see in the bill, federal firearm licensee is the person licensed to deal in firearms under the federal statute 18 U.S.C. 923. This would apply in those situations where there is a firearm hold agreement between the licensee and the firearm owner. You see a definition there of a firearm hold agreement. This is essentially where the dealer, licensee, agrees to take possession of the firearm for a certain duration of time and then to return it to the owner at the end of that time period. The bill would provide immunity to the firearm licensee for any actions that arise out of returning that firearm to the owner of the firearm. So there would be no civil liability on the part of the federal firearms licensee for returning the firearm to its owner at the conclusion of that agreement. The bill does provide that the immunity doesn't apply to any unlawful actions on the part of the federal firearms licensee. So as is standard in law, they would be liable for any of their unlawful conduct in the transaction. This provision would go into effect on July 1st if enacted. I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Jason. Committee, any questions for Jason on this bill? Seeing none, we will move on. For conferees, we have a number of conferees this morning, and I don't like to limit testimony for any one person to any amount of time. I'm going to give you a block of 20 minutes to do all of it. So just for each conferee, just be aware that you'll have somebody following in behind and be cognizant of their time, but we don't like to limit anybody because we like to hear testimony to the extent we can. So we will start off first with Senator Starnes, and I'll start the 20-minute clock, and we'll just go from there, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. I stand in support of this particular bill. I see it as an opportunity to prevent suicide. And the situation, being a pro-life legislator, I think we should do everything we can to continue to protect life. On a personal note, 22 years ago, I lost a son to death by firearm suicide. And again, pray that no one has to experience that. But if this bill helps just save one life, then I think it's well worth the passage of this bill. And I stand in favor of and hope you would pass out of committee this particular bill. And I'll stand for questions as needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. We'll hold for questions until the end of the block. Up next, we have Amy Campbell from the Kansas Mental Health Coalition. Amy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here today on behalf of the Kansas Mental Health Coalition in support of this legislation. I would point out that the bill simply provides immunity from civil liability to a federal firearms licensee who returns a firearm to the owner that he has been holding at that owner's request. So it's simply creating an option and some protection for those firearms dealers that want to be able to help out their customers in this situation. I would also point out that the reasons that firearms owners might ask to have a weapon stored there go well beyond a situation like suicide. It's very important to the Mental Health Coalition that if I have my firearms in my home, if my teenage son is going through a mental health crisis, I would have a legal option to take those and have them safely stored at a firearms dealer. But in addition to that, people ask to have their firearms stored in situations where they're moving, where they're traveling, or perhaps in a situation where they've had some sort of a fire or destruction to their home and it's not a safe place to store them anymore and they don't want to keep them in a storage facility that can be broken into. My testimony looks like this, and it has a lot of research attached to it on how these types of measures have worked in other states and have provided some research about how it makes dealers more interested in participating in these programs. And it also talks a little bit about how the Army has been involved in establishing some of these programs near their bases. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Amy. Next up, we have Michelle Pons, the Association of Community Mental Health Care. Michelle, welcome to Fed and State.
Good morning, Chair Thompson and members of the committee. My name is Michelle Ponce. I am the Associate Director of the Association of Community Mental Health Centers, and we represent all 25 licensed community mental health centers across the state who are the safety net for Kansans with behavioral health needs. We appreciate the opportunity to testify in support of this bill. The rate of death by suicide in Kansas continues to be of grave concern to us. In 2024, 516 Kansans died by suicide, making suicide the leading cause of death for ages 15 to 44. The good news is that overall incidence is down from a high of 590 in 2022. However, firearms do continue to be the #1 leading mechanism of suicide. We believe strongly that prevention is a key component to the behavioral health strategy for our state to reduce incidence of death by suicide, and that includes efforts to develop proactive safety plans. We believe this bill is just a common sense approach to prevention that empowers individuals to voluntarily take those safety measures to prevent injury and death by firearm. Thank you for the opportunity to provide these comments this morning.
Thank you, Michelle. Next up, we have Javier Avilés, PC, a private citizen, I guess, Javier. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. I don't see Javier in the audience. We have Brian Cady up next, Penguin Pawn and Coin. Brian.
Hello, Chairman Thompson and esteemed members of this committee. I know it's generally frowned upon to read from a statement. I'm doing this to maintain composure. My name is Brian Cady. I'm a disabled United States Army veteran. I live with post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm also one of the rare statistics that survived. While I eventually found help through the VA healthcare system, I carried that burden alone for many years. As part of my own recovery, I volunteered with my local police department every single weekend for the last 4 years, not as a position of authority, but as a way to stay grounded and to continue helping people where I can. I remember the isolation I felt as I struggled with PTSD. And I recognize that same despair and loneliness in people who come into my store who could be helped by this Senate bill. I'm here today representing Penguin Pawn and Gun, where I've worked for over 5 years, sales and regulatory compliance. I'm a proponent, obviously, for this bill. This summer, after Penguin Pawn and Gun was approached by Johnson County Mental Health Services and also a representative from the Kansas City VA Medical Center regarding the Armory project, I encountered a young man who was experiencing homelessness and considering suicide, as he elaborated to me. As a gun store employee, the immediate option available to me was to purchase his firearm, which I did. A few days later, he returned, and I purchased another firearm from him. At that time, I also provided him with the newly given information from the Armory Project and Johnson County Mental Health. I then asked for his permission to reach out on his behalf. The individuals involved, on their own time and after hours, dropped everything to respond. Those same people are before you here today in letters, in spirit, and in person, asking for your support. This man is still visiting me, and I hope to see him again in good spirits. As a representative of a Kansas federal firearms license holder, Senate Bill 356 would make it easier for firearm retailers to intervene responsibly when someone is in crisis. I do wish to be clear. I have personally sold a firearm to someone who later used it to take their own life in the adjacent parking lot to mine. That reality affects me deeply. The reflection that followed convinced me not to leave this industry, but to remain in it to help people to protect themselves and their family, and when possible, prevent the loss of life from suicide. As a veteran living with PTSD, I believe that any option outside the traditional care system is another opportunity to reach someone who may otherwise fall through the cracks, like I almost did. This bill opens the door for firearms retailers to step forward and help rather than look away. I've met both veterans and civilians who could have benefited from a program like this in their moment of need. Some of them survived, some of them became statistics. Senate Bill 356 gives us the opportunity to reduce that number. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Brian. Next, we have Sierra Wright from the Kansas Law Enforcement CIT program.
Good morning. My name is Sierra Wright, and I have the honor of serving as Vice Chair for the Kansas Law Enforcement Crisis Intervention Team. I am also the Community Prevention Manager for Johnson County Mental Health Center. CIT is a community partnership between law enforcement, mental health professionals, and individuals with lived experience to help improve police responses to individuals experiencing a mental health crisis. Across Kansas, crisis intervention teams work to ensure that individuals experiencing behavioral health crises have access to timely, least restrictive, and effective options for safety and stabilization. This bill directly advances that mission. Throughout my career, I have assessed hundreds of youth for suicide risk. I have also witnessed firsthand the profound trauma and loss experienced by families and communities when someone dies by suicide. These are losses that ripple outward, affecting parents, siblings, classmates, first responders, and communities. As you are likely aware, mental health-related calls for service continue to rise within law enforcement. My colleagues in law enforcement routinely share the toll of responding to devastating suicide calls. In 2022, my understanding of this issue became deeply personal. During my second pregnancy, I began experiencing severe depression, psychosis, and suicidal ideation. What should have been one of the most joyful times of my life was instead marked by overwhelming darkness and despair. Despite having access to an excellent care team and unwavering family support, I reached a level of hopelessness I never thought possible. On May 13th, 2022, I woke up in an ICU bed after a suicide attempt. Sharing this story is not easy. There's still a lot of pain and shame, but I'm here today because recovery is possible. I am living proof that a temporary crisis does not have to result in a permanent loss. Every Kansan deserves the opportunity to live a safe, healthy life and to survive their darkest moments. In politics and public service, it can often feel like so much is out of our control, but this is something that we can do. Passing this bill into law is a tangible, bipartisan opportunity to help save lives, to ensure families do not lose a mother, a father, a child, or a loved one when prevention was within reach. Thank you for your time and your service and your consideration.
Thank you, Sierra. Final in-person testimony from Nathan Carter, Johnson County Mental Health Council Center. Nathan?
Good morning, Chairman Thompson, members of the committee. Thank you for hearing this bill and giving us the opportunity to provide testimony today. My name is Nathan Carter. I'm the Community Relations Manager for the Mental Health Center, and I'm here today to express the Mental Health Center's support for this bill. For the past 3 years, we've been intentionally reaching out to firearm retailers and firearm owners in our community to provide training and resources to increase mental health awareness and expand responsible firearm storage options. As a part of that effort, we have also been working with the Armory Project, a program that's active in 5 states and helps federal firearms licensees provide voluntary out-of-home firearm storage to individuals experiencing a mental health crisis. To date, 2 stores in Johnson County have agreed to provide this type of storage through the Armory Project program. You just heard from one of them. Others have expressed a willingness to help, but have cited liability concerns as a barrier to their participation. This bill would remove that barrier, creating conditions for more FFLs to participate and giving communities across Kansas more options and more capacity when voluntary out-of-home firearm storage is needed during a mental health crisis. Too often, firearm owners don't seek help or appropriate resources during mental health struggles because they fear losing their firearms. Expanding storage options through trusted professional partners like local gun stores will help us meet more firearm owners where they're at and create the life-saving time and distance from their firearms they need to stay safe during a mental health crisis, connect to care, recover, and ultimately return to the store to retrieve their firearms. You heard from an FFL today who's already providing this type of storage. It's a safe, responsible storage option firearm owners can use in a variety of ways when they're going on vacation, when they're moving to a new home, perhaps when they're deploying for military service, or yes, when they're experiencing a mental health crisis. But we need more of them, and there are more of them wanting to get involved. This bill would invite those local business owners in to be a part of the solution and help save lives in our communities without putting themselves or their livelihoods at risk for lending a helping hand. By passing this legislation, we can expand access to this storage option in communities all across Kansas, and that's why we're here today to support it. Again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Nathan. Committee, we have written-only proponent testimony from 6 others who've submitted their written version of testimony. And at this time, before we move to neutral, I'll open it up to questions to the committee for any of our proponents on the bill. Senator Fascadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is for Senator Sarnes. So I think it's amazing that you have still had the will to go on and regarding your son's situation and to be helpful to others with this legislation. So I certainly support it, but with getting a good understanding on 2 pieces of it. So if I'm the person, I'm the gun owner, I'm depressed, so I can just take it back to the person who sold it to me. They put it in the storage. Tell me exactly how that process works.
Senator Starnes?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. I appreciate the comments. The situation, the people that maybe sold it to them may not be in the program as well as far as the voluntary storage, but there are places that they can go, yes, that it's a voluntary program for the gun shop owners as well as voluntary for the people that own the guns. And so there's no restrictions in regards to that. So they could be able to take that to whomever is involved in the program and willing to take the gun storage for them.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, so does that person who is receiving and storing the firearm, do they have the power to say, no, I don't think you're ready, I'm not giving it back to you yet? How does that work?
I appreciate the question. As I understand it, no. Again, the responsibility is with the owner of the guns. Now, they may, quote, counsel or suggest, but under the Second Amendment rights, as far as them and ownership, they would continue to have that ownership And again, not withholding from, but to be able to say something, counsel, et cetera, those kind of things. But the gun owner has the responsibility.
Committee, any other questions? Senator Blue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is going to be probably for Michelle or Amy, and it could lead back to Senator Starnes as the author of the bill. As I understand it, this just deals with FFLs. What about the thought of maybe mental health centers having lockers? Or I'm just thinking of a situation that happened in my district, and the mom came to a public coffee and told us the whole story. And long story short, we maybe have a couple FFLs in Great Bend, but at the same time, what if we could utilize, this was an active person who was utilizing services at the Center for Counseling. So I'm kind of curious your thoughts on if we broadened it a little bit.
I don't know if mental health centers want to store people's weapons. I will say that there's a good deal of research behind this. So the research behind it does show that sometimes just giving a person that pause can be the life-saving thing, and that's why storage is effective. So the question of whether or not healthcare facilities want to be the responsible party for storing weapons, part of the complexity of that would be a federal firearms dealer already has certain parameters, legal parameters under which they operate. And they also have the liability coverage and insurance for storing and maintaining weapons on their property. So there could be some complex things that would have to be worked out there. I can't speak for mental health providers in saying they do want to store weapons, but the other advantage of this program is there is a trust factor that happens between the firearms owner and the firearms dealers. But I like your idea. We'd just have to explore it more, I think.
Let's talk offline. Thank you.
Committee, any further questions? Seeing none, we will close the hearing. Oh, no, we have neutral written only testimony from David Morantz of the Kansas Trial Lawyers Association. So you, committee, review that. So at this point, we'll have no opponents. We will close hearing on Senate Bill 356. Committee, we have several bills that we need to consider working. I think we're going to move first to the hopefully the simplest is SCR 1617, which is just a strike of part of a sentence. And committee, I don't know if you need a review on this. This is the one conforming the Kansas Constitution with the U.S. Constitution, Article 5. And if somebody wants a bill brief, we can have Jason do so. It's up to the committee. If not, we can discuss it in the context of the amendment. So I think Jason will just go ahead and approach the amendment. SCR 1617, yes. I think Senator Murphy has some comments he'd like to make on this once we get this passed out. I'll have Jason explain it first and then open for comments and discussion.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the balloon amendment that was just passed out, the primary amendment appears on page 1, lines 28 to 31, where you see the remainder of the sentence referring to ratifying amendments to the Constitution or to make application to Congress to call a convention of the states for proposing amendments to the Constitution of the United States would additionally be struck, so that Section 13 would simply address the requirement for passage of bills by the legislature. It would not refer to either of these special types of concurrent resolutions. The other amendments you see there on page 1, because there would be no requirement for those resolutions, there are amendments to clarify both the title and the explainers on the resolution, which is required under the Constitution to amend the state constitution. So you can see the language being changed there to better express what is being proposed in the amendment to Section 13. the final amendment on page 2 and lines 24 through 27. Standard language when we, for the date for when the question is to be presented to the voters for the general election also includes a clause that provides that if a special election is called on a sooner date, that the question would be presented to the voters at that sooner date. In most cases, there is no special election that has been called at a sooner date, and so the question is presented at the general election. For 2026, we do have a special election that has been called for August 4th of 2026. And so with that clause in there, this question would be presented on the August 4th primary ballot if that clause is left in the resolution and adopted by the legislature. The amendment would strike that clause in lines 24 through 27, making it clear that the question would be presented on the general election ballot in November of 2026.
Thank you, Jason. Committee, any questions? Senator Murphy, did you want to expound on the reasoning for this amendment?
Yeah, Jason did a really good job. I think the stuff that was struck out there in lines 28 through 31 is sort of redundant, and it just sort of cleans things up a little bit and makes it a little bit more clear. We're going to look at something here. I think probably do the amendment first and then kind of explain this other stuff we were talking about. I think so. Yeah, so I think this just cleans things up really good. I do have some further explanation on the whole full bill after we do this amendment that I'd like to spend a few minutes on.
Questions on the amendment? Seeing none, Senator Clifford will second the amendment. Okay, I'll move the amendment. Senator Clifford seconds the amendment. Seconds. And any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of this amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. We're back on the base bill, SCR 1617. Any further amendments or discussion? Senator Murphy.
Okay, for discussion, that's another story. I got something I want to pass out to everybody here. I'll if I can get some help from you guys. I'll keep one for myself. And while it's being passed out, ultimately when we were discussing this at the hearing, it was brought up about how the 2/3 got put in there in the first place. And there was a lot of uncertainty about, well, why would that have been secretive or whatever like that. And so I just wanted to kind of share some of the research and then show you what's being passed out as a sample of the Johnson County special election ballot that was handed out to people. And so you can see how much information is in there. And if you were to look at the where question 2 under Article 4 elections, I just highlighted down there at the bottom is just the mention of the 2/3 where it was added in there. So when you look at all that, and this was just presented to the people, you can see how much information was there. 74, yes. So, yeah, I was. I mean, I know that you're just 39. So just like I said, I don't want to take a lot of time here, but I did want to kind of cover some of this because there were some questions about everything. The initial impetus for amendments to the Kansas Constitution was in 1873, and it was a call by Governor Osborne and other state bodies to remedy deficiencies. The commission was formed and started work about 1876. However, the electorate rejected calls for state constitutional conventions in 1880 and 92. In the middle of the next century, when the Model State Constitution Project was initiated nationally in 1948, it added prestige and tools for the work. Finally, the admission of 2 new states, Alaska and Hawaii, in 1959 seems to have given the project the push that it needed. Between 57 and 69, the Kansas governor and legislature appointed 3 different commissions to study and report suggestions for action. These reports culminated in recommendations to be put into amendment proposals no later than 1970. In 1966, the voters of Kansas approved amendments to the education article. In 72, the voters approved amendments to both the executive and judicial articles. Amendments were to the legislative article and the apportionment article were recommended by a special legislative budget committee in the summer of 73, starting with the approval of H.R. 1008 from the 73 session. The proposed amendments into the legislative article were moved from HCR 1008 in 73 and placed into HCR 1060 for the 74 session, in which form they were passed by the House with the necessary two-thirds majority and referred to the Senate without change for the simple majority requirement. On January 1st, 1974, the first state call for an amendment proposing convention on the subject of a right to life in Indiana was read into the congressional record. And on March 26, 1974, the Kansas Senate, without holding committee hearings and without recorded floor debate for public review, changed the requirement for passage of the amendment of conventions of states and ratification of proposed amendments to the U.S. Constitution in HCR 1060 from simple majorities to two-thirds of all members by floor amendment. Senator Ross Doyen, Republican Concordia, offered the amendment, and Robert Bennett, Republican Prairie Village, was Senate president at the time, and was to become governor in November. When the changed Article 2, Section 13 was presented to the Kansas electorate for approval, there was no explanatory note on the ballot of the increased requirement, nor was any offered for simple ballots published in the October 1st, 1974 newspapers of record. According to research by the state library newspapers from that year, only one mention of the change was found. It was this entry in the Parsons Sun, October 31st on page 12. As a matter of housekeeping, the amendment would make it a constitutional requirement that all amendments to the U.S. Constitution be ratified by a two-thirds majority vote. This has been customary, but has not been included in the Kansas Constitution. And of course, that's misleading because it's not even talking about the subject. It made no mention of amendment proposals, only ratification. And what is said about the changes of housekeeping nature to follow customary practice were flatly false. Of the three resolutions dealing with amendments to the U.S. Constitution from the legislature since World War II, only one had passed with a two-thirds majority in both chambers. So I was not the one that did the research, but the people who did the research were the ones that helped compile that for me. And they said they spent a lot of time in the library, and the librarians worked with them and looking for stuff, and there just was they could not find any recorded discussion of it at all, other than those floor amendments that were given. So anyway, I just hope that maybe helps clarify, I don't think it was I'm not saying it was a devious thing, but it was not done in the sunlight.
Not vetted by committee or anything
No.
of that nature, just on the floor. Senator Gossage.
May I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Certainly.
So I'm trying to understand, so it's still, if there's going to be a change on the U.S. Constitution, it would still, the U.S. rules are that it would take two-thirds of the states.
For ratification, yes.
Right, for ratification. But all we're saying is for us we as a state, it's just going to take a simple majority vote for us to participate
Yes.
going forward.
For us just to call a gathering, for the lack of a better word, for the proposal, yes.
Okay,
simple.
thank you. Just to clarify that, because I've
Right.
had some people say to me, does that mean it doesn't take two-thirds of states? I'm like, we don't change that.
Right.
That, we're just talking about ourselves.
Which is why we're making this amendment, because we stay silent on that and defer to the U.S. Constitution, which has supremacy in this matter.
And our resolutions that we do still require two-thirds.
Correct. Committee, any further questions? Seeing none, is there a motion on the bill as amended?
I would move that we pass out SCR 1617 as amended favorably for passage.
We have a motion by Senator Murphy, second by Senator Starnes. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. SCR 1617 goes to the floor. Next, let's consider Senate Bill, let's do 355, the Chinese vaping bill. And I think we have, do we have an amendment on that, Jason? Or I think maybe we'll have, committee will have Jason give us a quick bill overview on that. And then I do believe we have an amendment.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senate Bill 355 was the bill amending the Kansas Cigarette and Tobacco Products Act. It has licensure requirements for the manufacture, distribution, and sale of electronic cigarettes, and adds additional provisions regulating the sale of electronic cigarettes. It also adds a new requirement for manufacturers who want to engage in sales of electronic cigarettes in Kansas to obtain a license to do so with a license fee of $500 each year. There's also an added definition of electronic cigarette manufacturer to make it clear as to who would be subject to that licensure requirement. And then finally, the bill would require the Department of Revenue to publish a list of not only persons who have been licensed under the act, but those who have had their license suspended or revoked, and include the date of such suspension, revocation, and anticipated date of reinstatement, if any. It would go into effect on July 1st if enacted, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Committee, any questions for Jason on this bill? Are there any amendments? I believe we have one. I'm not sure. Senator Murphy, okay. Senator Murphy, you want to explain it, or do you want Jason to do so?
Oh, I think I can do it. It's pretty straightforward, really. I took it from when we had the testimony, and then afterwards I spoke to the proponents and opponents, and they are all concerned about these. Currently they're all from China, but they could come from anywhere, I suppose, that are marketed to minors. And it was a real, like I say, it seemed to be a real concern, and they all kind of wanted a hands-off on it. And then I discovered that, I can hold this up again, but a consumer alert was put out by the Attorney General on the 9th of January. And you can pull that up and look at it. But it raises an alert about the dangers of these units. And so I thought, well, maybe we should just not have them so we don't have to worry about them. And so the long and short of it is, without mentioning China, this just takes out those devices from being legal to sell.
Committee, any questions for the carry of the amendment? Senator Fasquedo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I appreciate the fact that you spoke to both sides and found that they were supportive. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any further questions? Seeing none, do you want to move? Oh, it's amendment. Any further questions for the senator carrying the bill? Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to be clear that the opponent that testified is supportive of the bill with this amendment going on. Is that correct?
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry. He was an opponent largely because he misunderstood the way the licensing was, and he thought that it was per place. They were all going to, he says they're not going to spend $500 per place to do that, but it is just for Kansas. And so they buy the one $500 license, and it's good for a distributor. So yeah, he told me he was in favor of that, and specifically did not like these things either, so.
Okay. Senator Fasquedo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I agree that Senator Tyson bringing that point up because when the opponent made the statement of it's going to, put 1,000 people out of, send them to the unemployment line, and so I spoke with him too, and he's understanding of that. Thank you.
Any more questions? Seeing none, would you? Senator Francisco. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not so much a question, but a comment that I really appreciate the amendment, especially the prohibition on electronic cigarettes that have entertainment features. You're helping me in my waste reduction program.
You're welcome.
Any further questions or comments for the carry of the amendment? Okay, Jason? We just, okay, I get, you're moving your amendment?
I move my amendment.
Okay, do we have a second on that? Second by Senator Thomas. Any further discussion or questions? See, I thought Jason was going to second it there for a second. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. We're back on the base bill. Any further amendments? I'm not aware of any. Seeing none, is there a motion on the bill?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we pass out Senate Bill 355 favorably, as amended.
As amended. Second on the bill, second by Senator Gossage. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Senate Bill 355 heads to the floor. We have one final bill we need to work, and that is Senate Bill 310. That has to do with cryptocurrency. And Jason, give us a quick overview on that one. For campaign contributions.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senate Bill 310 is the bill that would amend KSA 25-4153 to allow candidates to accept campaign contributions in the form of cryptocurrency. It is defined in the bill as convertible virtual currency for online transactions that function as a substitution for currency or whose value is equivalent to currency. There are requirements that the contributions be made and received using a U.S.-based payment processor registered with the U.S. Department of Treasury Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. Also mandates that the cryptocurrency contributions be reported as monetary contributions with their value established as the fair market value at the time it is obtained by the payment processor. They are to be converted to U.S. currency within 3 business days. And then the bill also prohibits the use of cryptocurrency for making any campaign expenditures or holding cryptocurrency as a campaign asset. The bill does have an accelerated effective date of publication in the Kansas Register.
Thank you, Jason. Committee, any questions on that one? Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Jason. So currently, can they accept cryptocurrency and/or crops or other commodities or other items? Yes.
Jason.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, there is no explicit requirement that contributions be paid in U.S. currency, and so payment of contributions and other forms of goods with some value would arguably be allowed. I believe it is a somewhat gray area in campaign finance law in the state of Kansas as to how to value those and treat those.
That is my understanding also. And Mr. Chairman, I'm concerned when another question for Jason, but when we start boxing out certain items and not define the overall, where that could lead us in legislation. Because we're just picking one of the items that aren't currently defined, correct?
That would be correct, Jason. Yeah, we're just dealing with cryptocurrency. We're not dealing with precious metals, anything of that nature. Any other questions? Senator Clifford.
Just want to comment, Mr. Chairman, where I come from, the people give a lot of bushels of wheat.
Could be a ham hock or something like that. You never know. Senator Francisco, did you have a question?
I don't have a question, but I do have an amendment that might address that issue.
Okay. And do you want to explain, or do you want Jason to explain it, Senator?
I'll ask Jason to explain it.
Okay, very good. All righty, Jason.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the amendment is on page 3 of the bill, striking the new language allowing for the acceptance of cryptocurrency contributions and replacing with a new provision you see there in line 27. No candidate or candidate committee shall accept any campaign contribution in the form of any cryptocurrency, precious metal, security, or commodity. So it would prohibit accepting contributions in those forms. Additionally, you will see on page 4, there is the definition of cryptocurrency, and added to that are definitions of commodity based on the federal law of a definition of commodity that's used, and then securities, which is based on our own state law for security investments there. Then there's a change in the title on page 1. So this would prohibit candidates from accepting these forms of campaign contributions.
Any questions or discussions for the carry of the amendment? Senator Fasquedo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This question's actually for Jason, relating to the campaign finance piece of it on page 4, line 13-ish. I know during the hearing, there was a comment about if you received a campaign donation in this form, it was a 2-day period to, and that, if you could finish that sentence for me, a 2-day period to.
Yeah. Jason.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, yes, the underlying bill requires that any contribution made in the form of cryptocurrency be converted to U.S. dollars within 3 days after being received. Those provisions are stricken under the balloon that's before the committee.
Oh, okay.
Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Chair. I would just, when I was talking to Senator Bowser afterwards, he said he got a text, I think, well, during his testimony from a guy that said there's actually an app where somebody can donate whatever. They can say, I'm going to donate $1,000 to your campaign. It's converted immediately into money and goes into your account. So it doesn't, you don't have that 3-day lag. You don't have to worry. So it's almost, I mean, it just does the conversion for them. Otherwise, you could go convert crypto to cash and then hand it to them or write them a check or whatever. This just kind of cuts out that middle deal. And then I might add that my SB 39 that we passed last year allows you to just basically use a debit card and pay with gold and silver if you want.
One option.
But it converts it to cash immediately, so they're not really getting gold or silver, they're actually getting the cash.
Getting cash.
Right, and I think that's the way this crypto deal is too, so that may be kind of a little bit of a workaround for us.
Right. And the, just for the carry of the amendment, so this would basically speak to the fact that, you know, the gray area where commodities and things of that nature could be, this would just make it very, very clear and definitively change the campaign finance law. Yeah. Correct, Senator Francisco?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, it would. And I did also have the chance to talk with Senator Bowser, and I appreciate his bringing this to our attention. I think we should have, mention how cryptocurrency should be treated. But I think this is, especially with that app, if the campaign treasurer then would be accepting currency because it's been exchanged, then that would not create a problem. This eliminates any extra work for the treasurers, any discussion of what happened if the price of wheat went up or down.
And I had a discussion surrounding that. If you accept like a commodity, if you accepted gold, even if you accepted cryptocurrency, I believe the question was from the person I was discussing it with, if you have a certain amount of money in your campaign and you are earning interest on that money, is there any difference? Is that any different from receiving a cryptocurrency and the price goes up before the time you actually cash it in. But I think it is date and time stamped when you receive it. So the intent is you receive the amount of money it was, at the time it was date and time stamped. And then any additional change in value would be the same as earning interest. And that was, and I thought it was a good point that they made on that particular point. So any further discussions or questions? Senator Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to make sure I have this right because I don't want to be wrong, but we are limited, if this is converted to cash, don't we have certain levels of cash that we can accept for campaign contributions? Can we address that, please?
That is correct.
I was just going to, I used the term cash, but like if you get that, if you have that app and it gives it to you, it goes into electronically into an account as dollars, but it's not.
Is that, was that?
So is it considered, would it be defined then as like an e-check or?
Yeah, it'd be like e-funds, yeah.
Okay.
It's like you'd get from WinRed or Go Blue or whatever.
Okay, because I heard cash and just.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, any further questions for the carry of the amendment? Senator Blue, do you? Okay.
Thank you. I think then that kind of goes into, PayPal, Venmo, everything else to that extent of where is that? But then I'm also wondering for Jason on, do we have any regulation on cryptocurrency in current statute? And maybe that's, so we're not even talking about cryptocurrency as a state besides just in this amendment, just in this bill.
Mr. Chairman, the issue of payments and receipts in a form of cryptocurrency has been debated in different pieces of legislation pertaining to different areas of the law. So there is no global statute that applies to all forms of cryptocurrency for all transactions in the state of Kansas. Rather, it has been discussed in piecemeal fashion in particular contexts, such as this bill in the context of accepting campaign contributions.
Any further questions? Senator Thomas.
Thank you. Apologize, Mr. Chairman. So would it be wise of us to either, since we've discussed it, but it's not actually in statute, to either define cryptocurrency in statute or put language in the bill that might give ethics the flexibility?
I think before we go there, I think we need to stay on the discussion for the actual amendment first.
Yeah.
And then if we need to go down that path, then we can. So any further questions for the carry of the amendment? Senator Clifford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one clarification. I was wondering if Senator Murphy was offering an alternative amendment to this amendment, a substitute amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Murphy.
Not really, because like I said, I think if you do that app or like say, like use a debit card for the transactional metals, you're not really paying with those things. Ultimately, you're paying through e-funds just directly into an account at a dollar amount. So it's not something that changes. And so I wonder, I mean, if this amendment doesn't make it to where we don't even need the bill.
Correct. Yeah.
That's kind of, I guess that's where we are. That's where I am.
Yeah.
Even the need for it. Then
that's the ultimate. That's the question of the amendment. Do we allow other forms of payment or do we restrict it totally to cash? I think that's pretty much it. Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we do have the Section D that we fill out. Is it that donations and stuff? In kind. Thank you. I just feel like this amendment boxes us in. I would ask the carrier of the amendment why she didn't just say we only accept monetary donations.
Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a short discussion with the reviser, and it seemed that rather than just say currency, the idea was to limit things that could fluctuate. The reason that I think we would still need this bill is the bill does include the definition of cryptocurrency. So that's not taken out of the bill. So this is on page 4. Lines 1 through 3.
Right.
So this bill then addresses that concern that we don't address cryptocurrency. I know that there are 2 other bills in the Senate that Senator Ballard also introduced that I'm supporting, but I just thought this made it clear, especially when there is that opportunity. I don't think we have to do PayPal or Venmo because those are not precious metals or securities or commodities. That's a transfer in essentially dollars or currency.
Senator Murphy.
I think with the situation we're in right now, we'd probably be best just not to proceed any further on this at the moment.
I'd
make a motion for that.
Well, perhaps we should vote on this amendment, and we're getting kind of late into the day and into the hour, so I think we vote on the amendment and then table the discussion for the rest of this meeting. So do you want to move your amendment, Senator Francisco?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the amendment.
Is there a second? Second by Senator Fasquedo. Any further questions, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no? No. Cannot tell. Let's do a division here. All those in favor say, or raise their hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those opposed, right hand. 1, 2, 3. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the amendment passes. So at this point, we'll have to consider whether or not to further the bill and go on from there. So Senator Francisco, do you have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate this discussion and also recognize that there could be other amendments if there is an interest in just limiting it to currency rather than discussing. Thank you.
Okay, committee, just a quick note, we have a hearing tomorrow. It is on Senate Bill 391. We also put out our agenda. We'll be putting out the agenda. We've got a full week of hearings next week on some important bills. Oh, one last, I think Senator Blue has a bill introduction.
Yes, sorry, I was late, so I have a bill introduction. This is 26 RS 2552, and it's a bill concerning Consumer Protection Act related to entertainment ticket sales.
Committee, any questions or objection to introduction to that bill? Seeing none, that is introduced. Committee, thanks for your work today. A lot of discussion, a lot of good stuff. We appreciate it. We will see you tomorrow, and